Clarence Thomas has at last responded to ProPublica's bombshell report, delving into the apparently millions of dollars worth of fancy pants gifts and international mega vacations that he has received from a GOP mega donor named Harlan Crow. I'll never get past that name. So here is what he said should alleviate all of whatever concerns you might have about this being massive conflict of interest, bribery on the highest order, all of that. He says, Harlan and Kathy Crow are among our dearest friends. We've been friends for over 25 years. As friends do, we have joined them on a number of family trips during the more than quarter century we've known them. Early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues and others in the judiciary and was advised that this sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business before the court was not reportable. I have endeavored to follow that counsel throughout my tenure and have always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines. These guidelines are now being changed as the Committee of the Judicial Conference's responsibility for financial disclosure for the entire federal judiciary just this past month announced my guidance, and it is, of course, my intent to follow this guidance in the future. And I think that's amazing. So, first of all, as friends do, we have joined them on a number of family trips. That's true. This is just what friends do. I mean, many's the weekend that Brett Ehrlich and I will hop on his mega yacht with his personal staff of 50 and jet around the world. That's just what you do, everyone. I mean, sure, it would cost $500,000 to $1 million just to do that one vacation, but you know, family, friends and all. And then, so also he says, early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues. So as many people have now learned, we talked about this on the damage report this morning, ProPublica was not the first outlet to actually report on these gifts and these trips. It turns out that the Los Angeles Times did way back in, I believe, 2004. And what's interesting is that the reason that they were able to do that was that up until that point, he was actually reporting these sorts of things. In the immediate aftermath of that reporting, he stopped. I'm not an amazing historian. When did he join the court?
In 1991, I would say.
91, so 13 years earlier. That's
just
weird,
a guess.
Because I heard that in his early days in the court, he spoke with colleagues and figured out that all of this was cool. He left off the part about only stopping once the media was on it a little bit. So anyway, obviously I have a lot more thoughts about this, but we are very lucky to be joined on this panel by a law student. I'm very curious, AB, what you think about Clarence Thomas's cover here.
Well, this is the unfortunate part about it is that the Supreme Court, while we have checks and balances, are like the one judiciary who does not really have a way to impose their rules of ethics, right? So they have certain rules that they should abide by, but there's really nobody to force them to do that. And so when you have a Supreme Court, which is skewed the way it is, right? And you see that through the way Republicans fought to make sure that Obama didn't get his picks for Supreme Court justices. It's scary because and you see the type of rulings that are coming down, right? We saw post-Dobbs, even though majority of the United States was like, this is not something we want. It's really scary because it goes to question, this is supposed to be a non-partisan court, but yet if you are getting gifts from someone who is a known Republican donor, you're getting billionaire, $1 billion gifts, and you claim to be someone who loves to roll around in your RV and live the basic life and be in the rural areas, like this is counter to the lifestyle that you try to make us all believe you was living in your documentary that your friends helped you make.
Now, really fast, we have to be humble with what information we have. He said he likes to go to rural areas. He apparently took an island hopping trip to Indonesia. Some of those islands probably have rural areas. And for all we know, he brought his RV on the mega yacht. It's big enough for sure.
He said in that documentary that he prefers the Walmart parking lot to a beach. And that doesn't jive with what's going on here. But what AB is saying is that's most true is the fact that there's no avenue for ethics complaints at the Supreme Court. And that's not necessarily on the shoulders of John Roberts. The Congress now, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, Congressman Hank Johnson of Georgia, both Democrats, are trying, they have a bill floating that would create an ethics officer of the Supreme Court. So you could make ethics complaints to that person. John Roberts has said the Congress can't tell us what to do, but generally speaking, we abide by, even though it's not written, we abide by what the Congress says. So if in fact there is a time to put this into play and where there would be a lot of backing for it, you would think it would be when there is such an egregious violation here, not to mention the other things that Clarence Thomas has done and his wife as well. I mean, you know, this is as corrupt and a pair in terms of closeness to donors, in terms of judicial activism, as you could see, he and his wife, Ginni. And so this, again, an opportunity to make some positive changes, and John Roberts could take the leadership here on this. But you know, he's going to have to recuse himself from some things. I think there's going to be great pressure for him to do that, and Roberts could be the point person to sort of bring honor in some way back to the court, more so at least than it is now.
I hope you're right about that pressure.
I mean,
I don't see him bowing easily to it.
No, I don't know that. Look, he's a guy. Whatever you think of his, you know, his mindset, he's a guy who really respects the court, and I don't think he's happy about this. I really mean that.
John Roberts?
Yeah, John Roberts.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I don't mean that he is happy. I don't think at all that he's happy about this. So it would surprise me if he wouldn't accept some of the changes that Congress is going to suggest.
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, double down on one other part of this. And by the way, there is a variety of different types of pressure right now. AOC did an interview, or Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did an interview with David Sirota on Lever News yesterday, continuing to push for articles of impeachment against him. That's good, she should do that, and it won't work, obviously. But that doesn't mean that you don't do it anyway. But I also want to address one other thing that was raised by Clarence Thomas in his defense. He said that from close personal friends, quote, who do not have business before the court was not reportable. Like, do you realize what particular sort of wool he is trying to pull over your head there? So his idea is that he can, for years and years and years and years and years and years, take these sorts of trips and accept $19,000 Frederick Douglass Bibles from this guy. And as long as he doesn't have business before the court, then it's fine and we're cool. Doesn't matter if he will. And that's the most minor point of this. Doesn't matter if the guy is engaged in a decades-long targeted effort to remake the American judiciary, which he very much is. He donates massive amounts of money, not just to the Thomas family, but to organizations looking to radically move the courts to the right. But they never talk about it when they hang out. There's nothing untoward about any of that. He gave $500,000 to Ginni Thomas's PAC. None of this is supposed to raise any eyebrows. I believe I saw one former Republican congressperson that said that this looks really bad, and that's largely it. But we're to assume that if Elena Kagan was flying around the world in the Soros Express, I guess it would be cool. I guess nobody would have an issue with that. I kind of doubt it. And by the way, if you were looking for any additional reasons to have an issue with Harlan Crow, he not only gives money to people like Clarence Thomas and Ginni Thomas, he also donates to Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Not as much, $5,800 to Sinema's campaign, $5,000 to the Getting Stuff Done PAC, a leadership PAC tied to the Arizona senator. By the way, at various points, Kyrsten Sinema has spit in our face. The fact that the PAC that supports her is called the Getting Stuff Done PAC is like the ultimate insult to injury. But anyway, also donates to Joe Manchin. Also donates, by the way, $12,500 to Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas since 2006.
He also has a sculpture garden at his home in Dallas in the backyard of fallen communist leaders. So great statues of Lenin and Stalin and Fidel Castro, statues that were removed when they were deposed, that he has acquired and held on to. So he goes out for his coffee in the morning with the Dallas Morning News, and he sits among the fallen communists of our past, and he gets great pleasure, it seems, out of this.
Anyway, I want to go last to you, AB. We were talking about pressure. We're talking about these calls for impeachment. Do you think that is there anything here, anything going to happen?
I mean, as of right now, no, right? We've never really seen a Supreme Court justice impeached. I think we had maybe one, in like years ago for something ridiculous. So probably not, but I think this is a good time to just highlight the fact that maybe there does need to be a code of ethics and some place for the Supreme Court to be held accountable for the things that they're doing. And I think now is the time to call for even more transparency when you see that if Clarence is saying that in the beginning, I was reporting these things and now all of a sudden I feel the need not to, or it's not reportable. Well, why is that? If you're not doing anything wrong, right? If your friend is not asking for special favors, then why don't you want to report it? It's like, it just is what it is. That's really a gift, right? So I think that's what makes it even more questionable. And that's what makes it hard on the American people to accept because of the lack of transparency within the Supreme Court. Yet they have so much power to make so many decisions about how we live our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, that's why the best route to getting sort of justice in this thing is through the Congress and through having an ethics process there, because impeachment's not going to happen. It's certainly, like AB said, I think it was Samuel Chase at the beginning of the 19th century was the last person. He was acquitted.
I think that's right. That's how I remember it too.
And he was acquitted.
He was acquitted.
Yeah. And so, and you need such a, you're not going to get that 2/3 majority of the Congress to impeach. But you know there is hope in what Hank Johnson and Chris Murphy are doing in Congress.
Yeah, they couldn't get enough people to impeach like in the fresh aftermath of an insurrection.
Right.
So probably not.
Right.
By the way, again, just want to thank ProPublica for some amazing work there. Obviously, you know, a short rest is well deserved. And then if you'd like to continue on this beat, I would love someday to find out what happened with Brett Kavanaugh's debt during the process of him becoming a justice. Kind of feel like there's an interesting story there, but who am I to say?
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.